Good evening, everybody. You're all very welcome to our Women on the MBA webinar for UCD Smurfit School this evening. My name is Edel O'Leary, and together with my colleagues on the call this evening, we run the MBA programs here at UCD Smurfit School. So what have we got on our agenda for this evening? I'm going to hazard a guess that you've had a thought or thinking about a gear change in your professional life. And as part of that thinking, a return to study has hopefully featured in your process. As you may know, we run a series of information evenings throughout the year, but this evening is dedicated to women in order to break down some of the concerns expressed by women, both in terms of the decision to undertake an MBA and the lived experience of completing an MBA. In terms of our agenda this evening, I'll provide a brief overview of our MBA programs and will explain what makes the Smurfit School and the Smurfit MBA unique. I will give you a flavour of the academic content on the programme, the formats for each programme, and I'll touch very briefly on the co-curricular activities for each of the programmes. There is a lot to say, and I won't be able to cover everything. So as I go through my presentation, my colleagues will share links to the relevant content on our website using the chat function. When I've finished speaking, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Professor Colin McLaughlin, who is going to speak to us about UCD's overall commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion, and specifically gender equality, which will set the scene nicely before we hear from our fantastic panel of women, hosted by Professor Federica Pazzaglia and featuring 2 recent MBA graduates and 2 current MBA graduates. We're going to use the Q&A function on the bottom of your screens, not the chat function, to actually take questions this evening. Please do pose your questions as we go along throughout the evening and throughout all of the presentations. My colleagues Catherine, Sinead and Christine will be answering technical questions or program-related questions that you may have. And I will put any questions to the speakers or the panelists at the end of the panel session. And then we can have a broad Q&A on the programs themselves, and there'll be plenty of time for questions. Finally, I'll close with some practicalities of admissions and scholarships. So there may be a couple of questions at the front of your mind that have brought you here this evening. Is an MBA right for me? Why a Smurfit MBA? What does an MBA actually involve? And what are the time commitments? All really great questions. The answer to the first question, is an MBA right for me, is highly individual. But the typical MBA candidate, whether male or female, really wants to accelerate their career within their organization or to move into a new career, a new profession or a new industry, or indeed in some cases to move country altogether. But what they have in common is that they're looking to future-proof their credentials and their income potential in what is an increasingly competitive employment market. Hopefully, in hearing some inspirational career journeys from our panelists later this evening, you'll get some great insights into, and hopefully they will resonate with you and help you in your decision making. But what is important to say that an MBA is a globally recognized qualification that provides a holistic management education that can deliver whatever the outcome you are looking to achieve, either within your existing organization, in a new profession, or a new industry. The MBA remains the preeminent postgraduate business qualification today. And while other master's programs come and go, the MBA has retained currency over time. And take it from me, in a job interview, you'll never be asked what an MBA is. It really is a passport to a wide variety of career options. Okay, so why a Smurfit MBA then? It's important to say that not all MBAs are created equally. And a key question you need to ask when searching for your MBA is, how does the school, and specifically the program within the school, rank in a global environment? The answer to both of those questions for the Smurfit MBA is very highly. And to give you some context about UCD Business School itself, we are one of the longest established business schools in Europe. In the context of the MBA, we're one of the earliest European innovators, and we launched our MBA program as far back as 1964, so it was actually one of the first in Europe. The MBA is more than a program here at UCD Smurfit School. It's core to our DNA. Located here in Blackrock, the school became Ireland's first world rank school by the Financial Times in the year 2000. And we were the first school in Ireland to receive the Triple Crown accreditation from the important awarding bodies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and in Europe. And they are known as AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS, which you will hear referred to frequently. And that happened for us back in 2002. So to put that in context, there are actually only 18 Triple Crown schools around the world out of over 15,000 business schools. So we really are an elite group globally. The school is also a founding member of GNAM, which stands for the Global Network of Advanced Management. And I'll speak to you a little later about what that means for your MBA. But it is a partnership of international business schools, which was initiated by the Yale School of Management. From a program point of view, our flagship MBA programs are consistently ranked by the Financial Times and The Economist in the top 100 business schools globally. So as one of the oldest MBA programs in Europe, we have a track record, we have a reputation for delivering an outstanding program, and your Smurfit MBA is a recognized qualification with a significant reputation. All that history that I've just spoken to you about also means that we have by far the largest MBA global alumni base, with an active and supportive network of over 4,000 MBA alumni and over 100,000 plus business alumni worldwide. And what that really means is that you get to benefit from that as an element of your program as part of our alumni mentoring program, which is part of the careers planning activity, which I'll come on to talk about later in the presentation. So there are three core features of our MBA that make us unique in both the domestic and international context. Academic excellence, which I'm going to talk about now briefly, some challenging experiences, and action learning. And I think it's probably important to say that we do actually have quite a lot of fun along the way also. Our curriculum provides an in-depth and wide-ranging coverage of all of the major business disciplines, from finance to marketing to strategy to HR. The curriculum is updated on a regular basis and includes emerging disciplines such as digital transformation and data analytics. And it also covers the core execution skills, for example, negotiations. We also offer specialized electives in digital marketing and customer analytics, executive decision-making, strategy execution, and strategy development systems. This means that you will benefit from a holistic academic experience. And what really makes our curriculum unique is the bench strength of our faculty, both academic thought leaders and leading practitioners. And that means that you get to benefit from the latest academic and practitioner insights, which gives you a competitive advantage in the workplace. What also distinguishes our curriculum is our emphasis on action learning. We seek to engage you with innovative and varied teaching methodologies. In many of our classes, we follow the Harvard case method, and the case method immerses you in the role of chief decision maker as you navigate the challenges facing leading companies around the globe. Repeatedly, you'll be asked to diagnose the situation, consider alternative courses of action for addressing business opportunities and challenges, and defend your choices amongst your peers. The method teaches you to chart a course through a fog of uncertainty, and in the process, it'll sharpen both your analytical, your decision-making, and your advocacy skills. We complement the case method with other teaching approaches. For example, in several classes, such as data analytics and operations, you will engage in simulations where you make decisions and see the outcome of those decisions in real time. In your entrepreneurship class, you will go beyond the theory of entrepreneurship to develop prototypes and business models, and you'll pitch those to real investors. You will also merge your academic understanding with practical wisdom through guest lectures and industry events. Most of all, the Smurfit MBA recognizes the importance of peer learning. You will have ample opportunity to benefit from the unique experiences of one another through class participation and, really importantly, in group work in your study teams. Many sectors, for instance, are currently wrestling with the challenges of ongoing digital transformation and disruption to their businesses. And you'll get insights into how participants from other companies, industries, and even geographies are navigating these challenges today. Finally, we move the needle on your personal and professional development by immersing you in challenging experiences. These include the Global Immersion Week offered as part of GNAM, international field trips, consulting projects, and most importantly of all, the final capstone consulting project, which will happen at the end of your program. So a defining feature of our MBA is its global focus and preparing participants to succeed in a global business environment. This is facilitated through a series of tangible experiences, including the GNAM Network Immersion Week. Alongside participants from other leading business schools within our GNAM network, the Immersion Week gives you the opportunity to take a week out of your hectic schedule to study a topic in depth, benefiting from both academic and practitioner insights. But most of all, participating in this week allows you to develop an international network and to significantly broaden your perspective. Doing business in international markets focuses on the realities of doing businesses in other countries and aims to heighten participants' appreciation of the cultural, economic, and institutional context of another country. You will participate in workshops, company visits, high-level business meetings, and a variety of networking opportunities. And finally, the International Consulting Project is a transformational learning experience in which participants will travel to an international destination and work with a local company on a current business challenge or opportunity. The project takes place over 4 days and will culminate in a presentation to the client company. And I apologize this evening for the slightly croaky voice because we've just returned from a group of traveling to Stockholm and Copenhagen with over 45 students for over 7 days. So I'm slightly the worse for wear for that experience. So on to the leadership development program. As an MBA student at Smurfit School, you will benefit from our innovative and comprehensive leadership development program. This program is aimed at strengthening your leadership capacity at individual, team, and organizational levels. It equips you with the skills and confidence to lead yourself and others in an increasingly uncertain environment. The program begins at the individual level with an emphasis on improving self-awareness to assist you in understanding your strengths and your weaknesses. And we provide you with coaching as you navigate your developmental journey. The program then prepares you for the challenge of leading teams and organizations. You will participate in a series of masterclasses, skills workshops, and coaching exercises that aim to raise self-awareness, but ultimately maximize your impact as a leader. This program happens in partnership with the MBA Careers Network as part of UCD, Ireland's #1 university for graduate employability. We have a dedicated MBA careers manager who works with all our MBA students to explore their career aspirations and their own timelines. Each student is unique, and through a series of career consultations, CV workshops, alumni and employer events, we structure a program that is built around you. Ultimately, we are measured on your success and career progression, and it plays an important role in how the programs are ranked externally as you become alumni of the programs. It is important to say that we work at your pace and we leverage relationships with Corporate Ireland, recruitment specialists, and then most importantly, our alumni base to ensure you get the best advice possible during your time here at Smurfit School. This service is also available to you for a number of years after you become graduates of the program. So now, more importantly, I'm going to move on to the program formats. So after that whistle-stop tour of the program content, I'm going to take you through the choice of MBA program formats that we offer here at Smurfit School. Very simply, there are two. You can choose to study full-time with us for 12 months or to study part-time, also known as the Executive MBA program, which takes 24 months to complete. In general, the academic modules are very similar on both programs, and what difference is the delivery format. As you would expect, the full-time program, we have students on campus every day during the academic year, and the international travel modules are a required part of the program for full-time MBA students. On the executive MBA program, students are typically on campus with us once a month on Friday and Saturday, and the travel modules are optional. We also require attendance for occasional Thursdays to complete the Leadership Development and Careers program. All dates are set in advance for 2 years on the program, which allows for flexibility with your work arrangements. Our full-time students tend to be slightly younger and have an international focus, whereas our EMBAs are slightly older with more work experience. The full-time MBA is an intensive, immersive learning experience, while the EMBA suits an independent learner. It is important to say that group work features heavily on both programs, so you're never alone, and through strong teamwork, everybody feels supported and confident. As has already been said this evening, we have almost gender equality on both programs, which is really important to us. But we also strive for diversity of sector and educational and ethnical backgrounds on both programs. Our website has an excellent MBA comparison table, and the link to it will now be shared in our chat function. Thank you so much for that, paying attention to that massive amount of information. I can see that there's questions starting to pop into the Q&A inbox, which is super. If we haven't answered them yet in the Q&A box, don't worry, we'll get to them during the course of the presentations. And if at the end of the presentations we still haven't answered it, it's because we want to answer it live at the end of the evening. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Professor Colm McLaughlin. And just to introduce Colm is the College Vice Principal for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion here at UCD Smurfit School. And Colm is also co-director of the UCD Centre for Business and Society. And in his day job is a professor of employment relations, where he carries out research on employment rights, including the issue of gender inequality in the workplace. Over to you, Colm.
Thank you very much, Adele, for your introduction. And it's my sincere pleasure to welcome you all tonight to this Women on the MBA webinar, and to say a few words in my role as Vice Principal for EDI. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for taking the time in your busy schedules to come along and learn more about how an MBA can help you achieve your goals. And I'd like to a special thank you to our panelists who are going to talk to you later on and share their expertise about the MBA program. UCD has taken great strides in recent years to embed a culture of equality, diversity and inclusion on campus, promoting active consent among our student body, investing significant resources around dignity and respect training, and seeking to become a leader and role model in EDI for the higher education sector. The College of Business has inclusion, respect for diversity and equality at the centre of our new college strategy. We recognise that business schools matter and that our research and teaching need to empower current and future leaders to address the sustainability, ethical and societal challenges the world faces. In recognition of our EDI progress, the university has been awarded the prestigious Athena Swan Bronze Award. Athena Swan is a framework that supports the advancement of gender equality within higher education. 15 schools within the university have also been granted Athena Swan Bronze Awards, and the College of Business is part of this grouping. And while we're immensely proud of this achievement, we know that we have much more to do, and we have set ourselves some very ambitious goals around gender equality and EDI more generally. Many of the organisations that you work for are also working hard to build diverse and inclusive workplaces for ethical reasons, but also because they see it as good for their bottom line. Research shows that female leaders build stronger teams, communicate their vision more effectively, are better at empowering and mentoring subordinates, approach problem solving in more flexible and creative ways, and have higher levels of emotional intelligence. Diversity also enables organizations to better understand and meet their clients' needs or to develop products for a diverse customer base. It's remarkable to think that the first female crash test dummy was developed just last December. Now, while more men are involved in car accidents, something to do with the way we drive, proportionally, women are 17% more likely to die and 73% more likely to sustain serious injuries in a car accident. The reason is that car safety is designed around the average male body, designed largely by men for men. And the same applies to everything from Fitbits to medical drugs, police stab vests, our city streets, air-conditioned offices. As Caroline Criado Perez highlighted in her groundbreaking work on the gender data gap, society collects data on the experiences of men and not so much on the experiences of women. So for us here at the UCD Smurfit School, getting more women into senior management through the MBA is one of our key goals. In our Athena Swan action plan, we set ourselves a target of increasing the percentage of women on our MBA programs from 24% in 2020 to 40% by 2025. And as Edel already mentioned, we are very proud to say that we surpassed our target this year with 47% on the full-time MBA and 43% on the executive MBA. And we did that by listening to our female MBA students in order to understand what was holding them back. And we focused on some of the barriers that they identified, namely a lack of flexibility, cost, and confidence. To address flexibility, we launched the Executive MBA in 2022, which suits those who are short of time and busy in their career. To address the cost barrier, we introduced a range of financial supports and scholarships. The issue of confidence is perhaps, I don't know, maybe controversial. I know that the women on the panel this evening are definitely not lacking in confidence. And I'd say the same about many of the women in business I meet through my research and stakeholder engagement. Maybe it's to do with a perception of a certain type of confidence, a male confidence. And it might be better that we think of it as additional obstacles women face in business. Certainly, research on gender inequality at work highlights the need for women to outperform their male colleagues in order just to be judged as equal. For example, a recent study in a large retail chain in the US found women weren't promoted to senior positions as much as their male counterparts because they were judged lower on their leadership potential, even though they scored higher than men on their actual performance record. Within this particular firm, 56% of entry-level workers were women, but that reduced as you went up the organization, with only 14% of district managers being female. The researchers interviewed managers and asked them what characteristics they identified as showing leadership potential. And they said things like assertiveness, execution skills, charisma, and ambition, all highly subjective and stereotypically associated with male leaders. And the higher up the organization you went, the lower the score women receive for leadership potential relative to their actual performance record. There's a great article in the Harvard Business Review called "Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders?" And it's based on research carried out on thousands of managers across all sectors and in 40 countries. And the authors conclude that we are unable to distinguish between confidence and competence. We assume confident people are competent. And they found that men are more likely to display confidence, and hence we are fooled into believing men make better leaders. Even though their research also found that men are consistently more arrogant, manipulative, and risk-prone than women, while women are better at building teams, motivating, communicating, and leading. They concluded that paradoxically, what it took to get the job of leader is the opposite of what it takes to do a good job. So it's clear we need more women in senior management to bring about a culture change. And by undertaking an MBA, you can be part of that change. To help women on the MBA prepare for some of the additional challenges they will face in leadership roles, we've been tailoring supports for students, including an alumni mentorship program for those on the full-time MBA, and then coaching, as Edel referred to, as part of our leadership development program for all MBA students. We are also committed to promoting our female MBA alumni, and you will hear shortly from some of our very confident female alumni and current students who will talk about how the MBA helped and is helping them to navigate and overcome the challenges they face in furthering their careers. Student-led initiatives are crucially important to building a vibrant and inclusive community. And in the area of EDI, for example, our MBA students run and drive the UCD Smurfit EDI Club. And I know Deirdre on our panel will no doubt speak to some of those initiatives shortly. It's an exciting time at UCD Smurfit School, and I think it's an exciting time to be studying an MBA, given the unprecedented challenges that organisations face. I'm sure you're very keen to hear from our panel, so I'll now pass you over to our panel chair, Professor Federica Pizzaglia, who is Professor of Management and Head of the Management Subject Area in the College of Business. And she is also involved in the Global Business Environment module on the MBA programs. So over to you, Federica.
Thank you so much, Colin. And also I would like to extend a really warm welcome to everybody who is joining us for this webinar this evening. And when I was asked to be part of this webinar, I was delighted to have the opportunity to speak with our panelists and have the opportunity to just kind of get this initiative really take form and get a chance to speak about the experiences and the successes of some of our participants in our program. For many reasons, one of them is that the MBA, as we've heard, is a flagship program here at the Smurfit School, but also because it's always great to hear from somebody who has lived the experience of an MBA and is here today to, like our panelists, to share their experiences and their stories with all of us. So I first then would like to get all our panelists to turn on their webcam. And I would like to just jump right into the part that I think everybody is dying to hear. So hear the experiences and hear your stories. So let's maybe start first with an introduction. And may I suggest we go in alphabetical order, starting with Claire, then Deirdre, then Roshan, and then Srilakshmi, please.
Evening, everyone. My name is Claire Daly, and I'm head of people for a development company called Quintain Ireland. And I did the MBA program. I graduated last December.
Claire.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here this evening. My name is Deirdre O'Grady. I'm head of legal and tax in Irigen in Galway. So I'm based in Galway. We're a medical device company, and I'm currently on year one of the executive MBA program. So I started last August.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Lovely to be here and meet you all virtually. My name is Roisin. I am on the full-time MBA program this year. So by way of introduction, I'm an occupational therapist moving from healthcare on the ground in hospitals into more of a business and management side of the healthcare services hopefully after the MBA.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Srilakshmi Kunat, and I'm currently a manager in business consulting in Grant Thornton. And I was the 2020 batch of full-time MBA.
So thank you so much once again to our panelists for being here today with us and for sharing their experiences. So maybe just to start that panel discussion, let's start from the start. So how did an MBA become something that you were interested in and interested in pursuing? And how did Smurfit and the MBA with us at the Smurfit School come to be your chosen option? And this is really a question for all of the panelists.
I'm happy to jump in there. So look, an MBA was something that I always aspired to do. And I suppose back during COVID times, I took the opportunity to use the lockdown to my advantage and actually go back and do the MBA. I always wanted to do it with Smurfit. I had previously done my master's and postgrad with Smurfit. And as well, it's the #1 college for MBAs in Ireland. So that was my reason for pursuing it with Smurfit.
Claire, for being the starting panelist.
I'm happy to share my experience, and I'm probably the opposite to Claire. I had no intention ever of doing an MBA. It wasn't actually on my radar. So if I just step back, so I'm a solicitor and tax consultant, so that's my background. So I was in an environment where I was in a law firm in Dublin, and then I had moved into the public sector, into revenue. So big shift from working in private practice into revenue. So I was in revenue, very happy in revenue, and I kind of moved through the ranks in revenue. So audit and investigations, you can imagine everyone loved to see us coming. You know, your tax man, or in this case, your tax woman. So I was in revenue for a number of years, and about 4 to 5 years ago, then I decided to move into industry. So as I say, I moved into a medical device company. So it was my first time working in industry. And it was like, that was a massive shift, or massive pivot in my career. And, you know, to say like I was a rabbit in headlights, you know, I'd never worked in industry. So that was a big, massive learning curve for me to do that first of all. So I think it was once I went into industry and I was like, oh my God, this is where I want to be. You know, I hadn't realized I'd want to be there. So when I moved in there, you know, I spent a couple of years learning the business, kind of involved in legal and tax, kind of risk and compliance, kind of very broad. And I found I was getting involved in kind of broader conversations than just solely the legal and the risk aspects of it, and really enjoying those experiences. But I felt, and Colin, you mentioned it, was this confidence. You know, you're getting involved in conversations that were very much outside of my zone, you know, supply chain, economics. We're talking about, we're a global company, we were looking at the global economy, and all of these conversations that, you know, that I had opinions on, but I doubted myself, you know, because I always thought, and again, I'm in quite a male-dominated industry, that, you know, the older guys in the room knew more than I did. So I think that kind of started the seed of doubt. It's like, I need to kind of get the fundamentals. You know, I wanted to build on my fundamentals outside, you know, in terms of the accounting, the finance side, you know, broaden my horizon. So that kind of is where I started saying that, you know, that concept of start with the end in mind. Where did I want to go? What did I want to achieve? And, you know, I wanted to build my credibility in the organization outside of being seen as just the lawyer. And I also kind of wanted to build my leadership capabilities. So, you know, I knew this is where I wanted to go. And I said, you know, I'm also a mom. So I was always going, God, when is the right time? Is this the right time? There'll probably never be a right time. So then I started, once you kind of, the seed is sown, well, for me, it was like, I've sown the seed, now I'm in, right? So then I started to look, and I was like, about this. But like, I didn't even have to look. For me, like, if you're in business or if you're in Ireland, Smurfit is where you want to be. So like, I knew about Smurfit before I even went looking for MBAs. You just heard about Smurfit, you know, Smurfit was the best. So I knew straight away Smurfit. So that's where I went first of all. So when I saw the executive MBA, I was like, this is fantastic, because I'm living Galway. And this was flexibility. I was like, this is like, I felt like it was made for me, you know, because it had just come in, and I was like, this allows me, because I work full time with the kids at home, this allowed me the flexibility. It allowed me also to sell it to my organization, because I was only 1 day a month away from the office, so that I could manage that. I could still do my work. So I was away from the office, but also with Smurfit, it's so practical, and it is really practical. So you could translate those learnings and bring them back to the office. So flexibility was a big one for me. But the dates are locked down, so I could plan with my husband, and we could plan how we would manage, you know, childcare and all of the rest. So that was the big one for me, was the fact, obviously, Smurfit is the best, and the flexibility. So for the two of those, that was the decision really made for me at that stage. So long-winded way to say where I ended up today.
I think for myself, it might have been a little bit more like Deirdre's story initially. So I think if you had said to me maybe 2 years ago that you're going to be doing MBA or anything within the business area, I probably would have been like, no, I don't think so. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an occupational therapist, and always from a very young age knew I wanted to work within the healthcare sector, helping people to be able to overcome, whether it's an illness or a chronic condition. But as I was moving up within the healthcare sector, there comes a point where you are reaching that kind of higher level, and you are implementing services within the hospital setting or the outpatient setting, wherever you may be working. And you can implement these and see how they can benefit not only the patients, but also the clinicians that are working in the area. But it's very difficult to take it any further than that. It's capped within the setting that you're in, no matter how beneficial the program that you start running or the new service delivery is for a patient. And that was when I started to see how this is something that I really want to be able to support, not only with the patients that I'm working directly with, but also to the whole nation, to be able to improve the healthcare services As everybody is probably aware, whether you're in Ireland or outside Ireland, the healthcare services here aren't the best at the moment, and there's very long wait lists. But when you're on the ground, you can often see ways that can be improved, but it's very difficult to step away from treating your patients to implement them unless you have more of the business skills and higher level management skills. And that is what drove me to start looking towards the MBA. For myself as well, as Deirdre said, Smurfit is, within Ireland, you always know that Smurfit is the place that you want to be. But actually my 2 previous degrees are from Trinity. So my occupational therapy undergraduate degree and then a master's in research and occupational therapy were from Trinity. So I did research the 2 to compare, just because I knew Trinity from before. But really, as Adele explained earlier, the global recognition that Smurfit has, the triple accreditation, being part of that GNAM program and having that kind of leadership and development program and the mentor and coaching programs is really what drew me even more towards Smurfit and away from my previous knowledge and areas that I was more comfortable with, maybe in Trinity. And that's what brought me about to looking into and applying for Smurfit's MBA program.
I think Roisin touched a bit on my own experience as well, but from a completely different sector. So I did a bachelor's in computer science and engineering, and I was working as a software developer for a health tech firm. And I absolutely loved what I was doing. I was very much technical oriented, and I thought, that's my space. That's where I'm going to remain. But as I progressed through my career, I realized that there's a gap between, the people who are setting requirements for any sort of product. In this case, it was specifically in the health tech environment. And there's a gap between the people setting the requirements and the people actually doing the implementation. So many times there's a problem where, somebody who understood the technical side of things could have maybe done it slightly better. And that's the thought process that sort of kicked in. And I'm like, maybe I want to move to somewhere, a different role where I'm making more of the decision and I'm looking at the strategy behind doing each of the projects. That's when I started looking at MBA, because otherwise I did want to do a master's, but I wanted to do it in a technical field. And when I look at MBA and I'm like, this kind of gives the best of both the worlds. Like I can still continue to contribute, with my previous experience and with my previous degree, but this sort of gives me a rounded approach to the business, because at the end of the day, everything has a business element to it, whether you're coding or whether you're a lawyer, whatever you do, there is a business element. So that's how I got thinking about MBA. And I think I was looking at international universities to sort of move out of India and get it done somewhere in Europe. And for me, it wasn't even about just finding the best university in Ireland. It was about the fact that Smurfit is so highly ranked worldwide. And one of the key points, loads of key points, but they've been mentioned by the lovely women before me here. But I think one of the key points for me was it's a smaller class size. And that is something that I thought would be hugely beneficial to just sort of get that complete attention, whether it's from a careers point of view or whether it's from their leadership development program point of view. So I think that was an additional plus point that stood out for me from Smurfit. But then when you just look at the global rankings, like you saw on the slide deck before, it is very highly ranked. Like there's no question, like you've got the statistics to prove that it is a very good university. And 2 years after graduating as well, I completely stand by it. I think it was one of the best programs that I could have chosen to do. And I think it's done heaps for my career and for my confidence as well.
Thank you all. I think there's lots of great insights and a lot of inspiring stories. And I'm sure that your insights have resonated, are resonating with our attendees who are listening very attentively. And in terms of then the program itself, we've heard a lot about it in the introduction, a bit about the academic content, a bit about the experiential content. Now you guys are living it or have just lived it. So what would you think, based on your experience, are the highlights, maybe a couple of the MBA experience here with us in the Smurfit School?
Well, I can share mine. As I say, I'm 9 months in, and I think the one thing that I've enjoyed the most has been the highlight, and maybe the one that I probably didn't expect is the group or the camaraderie that, you know, as you say, to your point, where it is a small group, which is lovely. So, and I know they talk about a network, but for me, it's more than just a network, because these people that you're spending this amount of time with in your study groups, there's a real connection, or there's a real camaraderie among us, and it's really lovely. And, you know, one of the things, we were out at Christmas, which just, you know, we were out, and I said to one of the gang, I said, God, I feel like a student again. And they said to me, but you are. And I was like, I hadn't expected to feel like a student. You know, it's been a long time since I was a student, but it's really that sense that there's a really kind of safe, kind of real sense of trust that, you know, everyone has each other's back. And, you know, if someone's having a bad week, or, you know, you can actually say, I haven't a clue, can you explain that to me? And that lovely sense of you can actually be completely honest with them. So that's lovely. And Adele said at the start, we have a lot of fun. Like, I look forward to going up to Dublin once a month to meet everybody, because you know you're going to learn a lot, you'll be challenged, but you also have really good fun. And the conversations that you have with your classmates in the classroom, outside the classroom, in your study groups, like, it's been a huge highlight, the amount that you learn from each other, because again, we're all coming from different backgrounds, and it's really interesting if you've got an engineer or a project manager and they are just really structured, and like, that's completely the opposite to where my skill set is. So you bring all of that to bear. So that has been lovely. And also, I think the women, you know, that was one thing that surprised me, you know. So I was where you were last year, and I hadn't expected to walk in and to see so many women, you know. So that was really, like, it's really empowering. So to have other women, you know, who have your back, and there's that lovely support, you know. And also, as a mom, I suppose having other moms there has been a real support to me, that, you know, because you're trying to juggle all of that. So that's been really lovely. So I know I'll take that with me. So it's more, as I say, it's more than just a network, it's real true connections, I think, that you bring with you.
I have to say I mirror that as well completely, Deirdre. Again, it was the network, but it was the bonds that you made, and bonds for life. Like tomorrow, I know I'm going to be meeting somebody from my MBA class who met up a couple of weeks ago just for afternoon tea and spa treatments, and it was just so lovely to reconnect. But we also are able to kind of pick up the phone and support each other even after the MBA program, which I never thought would be one of the benefits from actually doing this course. And also then the learnings in the classroom, like listening to your peers. As Deirdre said, everyone has completely different backgrounds. I suppose I came in with a HR background, so even though I'd be the common denominator on every team, you're usually kind of an outsider. So to actually hear from other professions and other backgrounds on how they approach problems and projects basically was a huge learning, which was fantastic. And I think that deepens your knowledge then, because you're seeing how different minds actually approach different challenges. So again, the friendships, I have to say, friends for life, which has been amazing.
I would also say as well, the group dynamic, the class, the atmosphere within the class, and that friendship, the friendships that have been built. But in addition to that, within my class at the moment, the full-time class, we have international students from all over, and really learning about the different cultures. So not only are people from different backgrounds within their career, they're also from completely different backgrounds, where they've grown up and what they've been exposed to this far in their life. And that has been a great learning for me as well. I did have experience working abroad before this and traveling, but being in that every day for the past 9 months so far has definitely accelerated my own learning and helped me to think from different angles than I would have before. So I think that not only the friendships and the dynamic within the class and everything that we've built, but also that exposure to different cultures, different backgrounds, different understandings and thinking processes has helped all of us to develop ourselves further and become more confident in our ability to communicate with anybody, no matter what background or where they come from. And also then the alumni network really links into that for myself. Everybody that's in that alumni network has come from this as well. They've come from, like, for example, Claire and Sri are from different years, but it seems to be the same things, the same points that people are pulling on. and they have been aware of what it was like and have built them relationships too. And everybody has been so open that I've reached out to let me go in, become part of their network too, or to help me think through processes if I've reached out to them on something I may be thinking of for as I advance towards graduation. And I think that is also a great thing to not only have, but to learn and see how it works once you're out of the MBA program as well, that it continues on. You're never really fully gone.
Oh, yes, Roisin, it absolutely continues on. And I know this is repetitive, but I have to say, so I would have graduated bang in the middle of COVID. So I did from 2019 to 2020. And when, the hiring wasn't at its best and you're sort of international student in a country, you cannot really travel back home. And that is when you realize how important that network you build is. And even now, we still keep in touch. Even now, when somebody's going through a career change, they'll send across the CV and we're always happy to take a look. It's just like, you're back in the MBA days where you're like, oh, I'm going to take a read over, make sure, fresh set of eyes that you haven't missed anything. Or I saw a job opening that might be perfect for you. Are you looking to shift? And it continues on. And it's not just your batch. It is just the entire alumni network that is so supportive. And there's so many events. And you could go to any event and meet a UCD alumni and you'll just click with them. And, it's always great to catch up. And I think it just shows how good the program is. It's not just you go into class and you listen to a professor teach. No, you do a lot of team projects. You have loads of, you get a lot of these seminars on Saturdays, which is all to do with developing your own personal style, developing your own leadership qualities. And those are the things that will sort of keep you bonded. At the same time, they're also definitely something that is slightly different from just a classroom learning. And I think another highlight that I have to mention is the international trips are always great fun. Like, you do learn a lot and it is very informative, but also at the end of the day, it is great, great fun.
Thank you so much. I think your stories really made the MBA experience come alive. I think people can imagine what it could be like to be part of this, both in classroom, but also experiential activities, part of this really supportive network of friendships and supports. In terms of then how to manage the actual MBA, life, like the how to handle, the coming together of personal and professional responsibility, the life and work of an MBA experience. How did you guys find it? How did you manage it?
Again, I'm happy to share kind of my experience and say Claire's probably better placed than I am because I'm still in the thick of it. She probably has more perspective of it. So as I say, I'm in the middle of it, and I have 5 kids ranging from 2 to 10. So my house is pretty mad at the best of times, right? So that was probably when I was sitting where you were last year, that was the only thing I knew I wanted to do it. And my only reservation is, can I do it all? Can I do the work? The family, my husband, he's working, and that was my only reservation, is like, how will I do that? And the answer is that you do, because I wanted to do it, and you find the way. So it's probably not even a balance, it's probably more of a juggle. So what I do is, my classmates would probably say, or my study group would say, I'd be quite focused, is then, when I'm very open with them about the times that I can meet. I want to put my kids to bed every night. So that's something that's really important to me. So I can't meet between certain times, but, I was upfront with them and I kind of said that to them about it, and they were absolutely no problem, so everyone has their own experiences, and I'm just sharing you with mine, so, being upfront with them, that's been worked really well. And I think actually, from my perspective, it's about my own expectations, in terms of the balance. I kind of think about it like I used to have a tidy house, and then I had kids, and I don't have a tidy house anymore. So I've had to reduce my expectations in terms of how clean my house is going to be anymore. So I kind of look at the MBA like that, in terms of I have to manage my own expectations, in terms of I have to work, I want to make sure my kids are looked after, I want to make sure my husband's looked after, and all of that. So I know I don't have as much time maybe as other people do, so I have to work with what I have and manage my expectations. Like, I'm here to get the best experience, to learn as much as I can, that real, experiential, that Colin talked about, you really get that. So I'm soaking up as much as I can, but being realistic in terms of where I am in my own journey, and I'm okay with that. And I think the other thing that is my support system. After I kind of told my husband I was thinking about it, he was very supportive, which is really important, because as I joked to him, it's like we're both doing this, you know. So, you know, because when I'm gone to Dublin, he's at home. So it was very important that when I had, after, you know, he was supportive, the next person I rang was my mom, because I had to say, you know, can she come and help? Like, so these are kind of the reality of my life, is that, can you give my husband a bit of a dig out when I'm gone on to Dublin? So I made sure that I had the support systems in place that I can call on, or my sister, or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. But also I realized that some days I'm winning, other weeks I'm not winning, and it's kind of a juggle. But what I would say though is that it's never a chore. That's one thing that surprised me. When I'm coming up here to study at night time after my kids in bed, it's never a chore, because it's so interesting. Edel talked about, we do a lot of this Harvard, so you're learning about real life businesses, and it's just so interesting. So I find it really energizing, and, you know, so I just think, well, as long as it's not a chore, and where there's a will, there's a way. So that's kind of how I balance it. You know, if you really want to do it, you kind of make it work.
Absolutely. And sorry,
you go ahead, Claire. My experience is probably a bit different, as I'm doing the full-time MBA program. So I left work to do it. I also don't have any children at home, but I am arranging my wedding whilst doing it. So there is still other pressures in other areas, and still family constraints and demands that come as well. But for me, I think exactly what Deirdre said, it's not a chore. It's something that I'm motivated to do. It's something that I want to do. So you do it because that's what you want to do. But I would be also very cognizant of organizing my time and prioritizing what's most important. Some classes you may have 5 or 6 different readings to do, and you also have multiple assignments due at the same time. And it's really knowing, well, what's most important to get done first, and then moving on to the next, and not getting stuck in just not knowing where to start, or being scared that you're not going to have enough time, because yes, sometimes there just won't be enough time to get everything done, but it's making sure you get the things that are most important done. Also, maybe this is more from my healthcare background, but I would be a very strong advocate for having that work-life balance, and being able to always do the things that you want to do, without it impacting the studies. But I would be always mindful of that, and making sure that I make time to do those things, whether that be spending time with my family, or getting out for walks and runs, things that I enjoy doing, and that helps me clear my head and then work more efficiently because of it. So I would plan all of those things that I enjoy into my schedule every day, and every weekend, and fit everything in around my workload and the things I want to and enjoy doing. And just being able to organize in that way has really helped me and prioritize, and has helped with overcoming any time constraints and demands on me, and being prepared in advance, and not allowing myself to become too stressed or overwhelmed when things do get busy. I think that has really helped with kind of that balance of still being able to enjoy life, still being able to go out with the class, with my friends outside the class, and spend time with family, as well as getting the work done.
And just coming in there as well, I'm a working mum. I have 3 kids. One was starting secondary school when I took on the program. So, you know, there was a lot of guilt. It was like, oh my God, how am I going to balance all of this? But again, it was something I really wanted to do. And as Deirdre said, it was getting the support around me. So my husband bought into it, my 3 kids brought into it, and basically I wanted to do it. So for me, it was about breaking it down into blocks. So when I looked at the 2 years, I was like, how am I going to do this? But when I looked at it as terms, it made it a lot more manageable. So the first term was like 10 weeks. So I you know, basically timetabled my 10 weeks. I was quite disciplined. You know, for me, during COVID, it was actually coming into the office because there was nobody here. There was no distractions, whereas everyone was at home and climbing the walls. So coming into that quiet space really supported me during that time. Also, it's just, again, it was the commitment that I wanted to give the program, but also to put boundaries in place. So Friday nights for me was family night. So that was like movie nights, and no matter what projects we're in, I just made it quite clear that nobody was going to interrupt that family time. because I think it is all consuming. So you have to put the stop and you have to see what works for you. And the final thing I would say is not everything can be timetabled. Life happens. We had a family bereavement through it. You know, a lot of things happened during those 2 years that you could never foresee. But again, it goes back to the support of the teams that you're working in and your classmates, and even the academic staff were really supportive throughout your journey. So there's always somebody there to turn to that's going to help you get to the finishing line and over it.
Yeah, like Claire said, it is all consuming. So I did the full-time MBA program, and I had moved to Ireland on my own. So I didn't, that's a good thing and a bad thing. So I wasn't worried about anything else other than myself and my studies. But that also meant that, you know, it's just you, and you've left a good, decent job that you had back home. You've left your family, you've left everything that was familiar to you, and you've moved to a new country, and you just go head first into the MBA course. And it's not a easy course by any means. It is difficult, but then it is so worth it. And it's not the kind of, I was never frustrated with the amount of work I had. It was always sort of an eager, you know, I was just eager to get to do this assignment or this team project that we had to do. And it was always good work. And it was always very, very, it was just good work. It wasn't annoying you. It wasn't frustrating, the amount of work we had. But also, like Roisin said, I think it was very important to learn how to balance both sides of things, because sometimes just getting things done is better than trying to aim for something perfect for every single assignment you have due. Because sometimes you have multiple assignments due at the same time, and you might have, you know, life happening in the background. So you might not be able to give your best for everything, and that's okay. So it is more about learning how to balance the load and making sure that you utilize every support system that you have, because you have your careers department, you've got your professors, you've got your counselor, and you've got loads of support from the colleagues. So you just need to reach out. And you've also got a great batch of classmates that you're, you know, they're in the exact same boat as you. So they know exactly how it feels when, you know, you think you're going to fail your, I don't know, you think you're going to fail your economics paper, but you're not. So it's just the stress talking. So I think it's just about taking the support that you get and also having a balance and making sure you're not working too much. And always, it's the first semester that's the most difficult semester. Once you've gotten through the first semester, you can get through every other semester. You can get through anything in life if you've gotten through the first semester of MBA.
Thank you. I think it's very heartening to hear all of these stories, different ways to deal with different challenges, but overall, I think a very big success and confidence, to echo the words of Colm before, it's coming out of what you're sharing with us today. And I think it kind of comes across that you all, in probably different ways, but also similar ways, got a lot, both personally and professionally, from your MBA journey and experiences. So maybe to touch on this, you know, like if you were to describe it and kind of really share, how do you think that the MBA, whether completed or in progress, has shaped you in the personal and or professional dimensions?
That is a tough question, but it's something that Sri mentioned there. If you can do an MBA, you can do anything. So I think after going through those 2 years and juggling everything, it just gives you this inner strength and belief that once you put your mind to something, you can do anything. And something we learned in OB from Ashley Hughes is when you're feeling uncomfortable, you're growing. And there was a lot of moments throughout the 2 years where you felt so uncomfortable and there was imposter syndrome going, what the hell am I doing financial reporting for? But then you turn a corner and it's like, oh, I mastered that. And you're so proud of yourself. And it brings you then to the next semester with more confidence again. So it's just fantastic for what it can do for you personally and professionally. And I suppose on the professional side, again, being from a HR background, a lot of the subjects were quite alien to me. So now you have this new language and understanding of professions around you where you can really add value to the table and actually bring your own thoughts and question professions in front of you that before you would not have maybe raised that question. whereas now you can understand the language that's been spoken and partake in conversations.
I think the imposter syndrome bit is really, really relevant. And I can remember the class, I remember them telling how it is statistically shown that it is more in women, that, you know, we might not apply for a job unless we think we check all the boxes, while males have shown that they, you know, they think, oh, yeah, I match 4 out of 10. I'm just going to apply and give it a shot. And it is a huge thing to just see that written out and told to you that it's okay, you know, this is something that happens and it's perfectly normal. So I think personally, after the MBA, the huge take back for me would be just the confidence that, you know, not everybody in the room knows what they're talking about, and that's okay. And you're just there to take in whatever information you can. And sometimes it is just about having the confidence to say, oh, I don't know enough about that to have an opinion right now, but I'm gonna think about it and get back to you. Sometimes it is just getting that confidence to be in a room full of people and know what you don't know, and to know that it's okay to not know that as well. And I think especially coming from the technical industry, which is still very male oriented, I think sometimes it is just about having somebody else tell you, you know, it's okay, but having somebody else tell you that, you know what, it's grand, like you're gonna be fine. And I think that's a confidence from a personal set of things. And I think professionally for me, from a technical background, I think it just opened doors to several other jobs. Like, for example, previous to this, I worked as a business development manager in an artificial intelligence research center. And now I'm working in healthcare consulting. So I think the MBA is just that sort of, you know, door opener into a lot more opportunities which you might have not gotten because you were probably in a specific field. So professionally, I think MBA opens loads of jobs, especially if you're considering a job shift, or if you want to move into industry, or if you want to move into something drastically different. I think MBA definitely helps with that.
For me, whilst I'm still in the process, it's definitely, so far, the MBA has enabled me to look beyond the expectations that maybe lie with maybe every woman or every person in healthcare even. Within the occupational therapy role, there's an expectation that this is what you do and this is how you provide the care to your patients, and this is how many patients you need to see each day. And although healthcare settings are always aiming to provide the best care they can possible for patients, there's never really enough time to make sure that actually, as the years go on, is this still the best care, or is there new practices that we should be providing? And it's hard to kind of step out of those expectations and doing those things, and to recognize actually we could be doing this and that could be better. When you're in a setting that's so busy that there's so many patients that you need to get home all the time. But the MBA has helped me be able to have the confidence to say, actually, no, we can slow down in providing that therapy and look at what would be the best for this person. It's also exposed me to a lot more ideas for innovation and for growth and demand and succession in all areas. So, of course, I've come from a healthcare background, but in learning through all these different areas of business in corporate finance and financial reporting, although, as Claire said earlier, it was very difficult the first few weeks, and I did feel like, am I in the right place? Will I be okay for this? Lots of different words being thrown around that I had no previous knowledge of or idea of, and really that imposter syndrome hit probably in those first few weeks. But although that can possibly come back for different people at different stages throughout the year, it very quickly disappears too, in that you're like, no, I can do this. And that comes from that confidence. Personally, you build confidence to overcome any of these things and unlock skills that were within you. They're all there. Everything that you learn during the MBA, you had that within you all along, but it's being helped, whether it's through your peers, through your support system, through the lecturers, through the program office. Everybody is there to help each person to develop to their best ability and to achieve their best success as they go forward and move on after the MBA. And I think that's really a great thing for anybody to be able to do. and the MBA really supports doing that, both in a professional and a personal capacity.
The only thing I would add to that, I agree with what all of the ladies have said. Again, I'm conscious that I'm 9 months into mine, is that what I've seen is I know more than I thought I knew, which was really interesting. So that's been really empowering, was the fact that, you know, when you're doing this, you're going, oh God, actually, I didn't realize I knew more than I did. So I think a lot of people will find that you're going, so it really just gives you that, again, building that confidence. And I think that's a big part of it, is that I found, you know, that, and my CFO would say that I'm much more confident in voicing my opinions now. So that I'm absolutely loving that, because I now have that, because I have that kind of, you know, that toolkit behind me, because I'm learning all of this stuff and it's really practical and I can apply it. So I'm also more curious now. I'm quite a nosy person anyhow, but I'm more curious now, and I'm hearing other people talking about things. I'm like, I want to know more about that in our own industry, because I've learned that. So I'm kind of building my own knowledge within our own industry. So that's really good. And the last thing, actually, and I would say this, is that if you're doing an MBA, I'm not shy about telling anybody in my organization, you know, that I'm doing that. So you can see that automatically the credibility within my organization has increased, because you see the most senior people in the organization, they all have MBAs. It is a rite of passage, well, at least in my organization, is that if you get into those senior levels, the MBA, so it's like, oh, you're doing an MBA, and then when they hear Smurfit, they're like, oh, so really impressed. So I'm like, there's definitely an element of credibility. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go out there and say that, because, and I would say that to anybody as well, to do that is like, you know, you should be going out there and also, you know, I'm not going out talking about it, like people will know about it, but don't be shy. And I have heard some of my colleagues being a little bit more reserved to say that. And I'm always saying to them, why would you do that? Go out there, you know, you're investing, that huge commitment. So don't be afraid to tell people about it as well. So it's been hand on heart, like one of the most like rewarding professional and personal experiences I've had, and I'm just so glad that I did it. Honestly, it's the best thing that I've done in a long, long time.
It's very, very inspiring to hear your stories. And I have to say, from my perspective, in different ways, all of you have challenged yourselves to go, whether, you know, kind of take a career juncture of sorts, or to just kind of step out of your functional area, you know, like Claire was saying, you know, like I've always been in HR, others, but now I'm confronting, you know, a wide spectrum of business disciplines, or, you know, others like Roshin, for example, have kind of gone outside of, you know, what was a traditional path, but all of you are speaking to how the MBA has really helped this trajectory, and how it's been feasible and enabled really probably the next phase of your career journey, which I think is very inspiring to hear for everybody who's attending today. So thank you for these insights. Now, possibly then for probably the part that everybody's kind of secretly hoping we were going to touch on, which is like, you guys have been in the program or are in the program, you've lived or are living the experience. Would you have any tips that you would have wanted to hear, you know, when you were on the other side of this webinar, or considering a program, you said, oh, I wish I got to hear from somebody and somebody told me this? Now's your chance.
Well, I'm going to say the capstone. So again, we know the capstone is coming fast and furious, and we always have good intentions to start early on. But unfortunately, the majority of groups wait until the end of May. So if I was to give one piece of advice, is to focus on your capstone earlier. And then also just to be disciplined with yourself. So make sure you take the breaks, you invest in your relationships, you don't ignore the children or the husband too long, because, you know, you have to live life as well throughout the program. And just to make sure that you rest yourself to fill your own cup, because, you know, if you get burnt out, you're no good to anyone.
Yeah, and I'd add, reach out to everybody while you're doing your MBA. Just, you know, because that is the most, when you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm, you know, currently doing an MBA and I was interested in talking to you about your role at company XYZ, you're very non-threatening. You're not asking for a referral. You're not asking for anything. You just want their time to talk. And as an MBA student, it's an opening line you have that, you know, I saw that you had also done an MBA and I would love to talk about your experience. I would say that is something that helped me tremendously with, you know, looking out for connections and looking out for jobs and just sort of building that network right from the start. I think when we start the MBA, so this would be in my experience as a full-time MBA student, as well as an international student who did not really have a network in Ireland when she moved here. So reach out and make that network as early as possible. It's never too early to reach out to people. And this is something that the careers department will tell you over and over again. But I think it's one of those things that we might not take seriously. We're like, I can reach out later when I'm looking for jobs. No, today I can't sit on LinkedIn today. I have this assignment. You'll always have assignments and projects due, but make sure you take that time out for your own network building, because that is going to be really, really a huge benefit for you.
I would add as well, and also Claire, thanks for that tip, because myself and Deirdre haven't got as far as the capstone yet. That's good to know. I would also add, don't be afraid to go for it and to jump headfirst into it. Be open to learning everything you can. As we have mentioned earlier, you cover a wide range of topics, and something such as financial reporting or corporate finance might not be an area that you see yourself going and working in, but keep that open mind and be open to learning, because it helps in every other area, having those skills to apply to whatever you do. And I think also staying, as Claire and Sri both mentioned too, staying focused not only on kind of the work and discipline around that, but staying focused on who you are, what's most important to you, what helps you to manage when things do get overwhelming or a little bit difficult, and what can you do to help your peers around you as well if somebody else is going through a tough time. You're all there to help each other, and knowing that you have that support, that you can reach out to somebody if you're finding a project or an assignment or just the time difficult at all, having that support system within the class and outside the class, and knowing that you can support others is really going to help you, and it will build that connection that you will have for life with those people as well.
If I was to add to it, I suppose there was kind of three things. I think at this stage, if you're there now and you're thinking about it, I would say be really clear on why, like having that clarity of why do I want to do that? Because when there are the late nights, or when you have to, miss the soccer match, or in my case, or you have to, miss the weekend with the girls, knowing why you're doing it and your motivation will get you through 100%. So being clear now as you're going through that process. And when you're in there, I think the tip I would have, expect the first semester, or particularly the first month, to be one of those where you come away going, oh my God, because that's exactly how I was. But if when I went back the next month and I said it to everyone felt the same. I was like, oh God, thank God it's not me. So that is normal. So you expect to be overwhelmed. And as everyone said, the first semester, and I'm only in the second semester now, but already I think you just readjust your it's just such a culture shock. So I would say the tip is expect it to be a bit of a culture shock initially, in a really good way, but it's just a big culture shock. So that's when you're in there. Also, I would say the tip is just manage your own expectations. What the other lady said. I always keep saying, nobody ever asked you to get a first in your MBA. So that's what I keep saying myself. I mean, it's like getting an MBA is where you're trying to achieve. So you're all about getting that experiential learning. And look, that's just my personal experience. Other people, may be looking for that. But that's what I say to manage my own expectations, is that I just want to do the best that I can. And what I say, you're here. So I'm thinking you're well on your journey about making it. So if you're here and you're thinking about it, I say, absolutely go for it. You will not regret it. And when you meet us in a year's time around the corridors, you come up to us and say, I'm so glad that I did this, because you just won't regret it. So I say go for it.
Thank you. Those are all great tips, I have to say, and it was great to listen to your stories. You really made the MBA with Assets Worth It come alive, and I'm certainly grateful. I think everybody on the webinar is grateful for you being here and sharing your stories. At this point, I'll pass the baton over to Adele, who's going to go over the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Frederica, and thank you, panelists. That was all super. So we have one kind of what I call kind of burning topic coming in on the Q&A, which I'd like to tackle, which is the concept of a GMAT test or an EA test. So we have lots of questions coming in about that. So just to put it in context, I'll talk a little bit later at the very end of this evening, just very briefly, a few minutes about the actual application process. part of the application process does mean that you need to have one of these tests. So I just want to speak about them just very generically for a moment. They are standardized tests, which test your verbal, your quantitative and your reasoning skills. So a couple of people have asked what's involved in these tests. Okay, so that's really what they're for. And all our applicants come from different industries, and some haven't studied for many, many years since being an undergrad. So sitting the GMAT or the EA is a great way to refresh your basic literary and your math skills, and it prepares you for joining the program. And I'm often asked, particularly by females, you know, what's involved, and, you know, I might fail and I might not actually pass the tests. And what I always say is, please, please, please just give it a go, because actually anyone who tries it and puts in the effort in terms of the preparation required to actually sit the GMAT or the EA, I have found in my experience has actually done reasonably well, and actually in some cases have done very well and actually have surprised themselves. And before, you know, I would say you actually, you know, consider it from a timing point of view, give yourself plenty of time to actually prepare for it. And then we also offer online preparatory sessions every Thursday evening from 7 to 9 o'clock to help you prepare for it. And it is part of the application process. So we'll talk you through that in a moment. So before actually, I'd like to actually just ask one of the panelists if they'd like to cast their minds back to when they were actually preparing to sit the EA or the GMAT, and just to take that fear factor out of it for people, because it is one of the first little stumbling blocks in terms of considering actually taking and undertaking the MBA. So I don't know, Deirdre or Roisin, you're probably the most recent to the process, if you have any insights for people on that.
Yeah, I did the EA, and I saw a question there was regarding online or in person as well. I sat it online. Now, I don't know if it would be better in person. Online was difficult at times with freezing on the computer, so do be mindful of that. But in terms of preparation, as I've said before, just dedicated the time to it. I knew this is what I wanted to do at this point. I decided I was going for the MBA, and I knew I needed to set that time to prepare. I made that decision to apply later in the year than some other people. So I had only a certain number of weeks before I needed to sit the EA. So I was just very dedicated during those weeks. I used the online resources and packs that are very, very helpful, and you can do practice tests on them, and I found them great. I also did the tutorials on the Thursday evenings and got recordings of the ones that I had previously missed since I was later coming onto them. And I think that was probably one of the most beneficial aspects, being able to go over them and practice again and again. It really is just practice. You'll get used to it over time. The first few times, you mightn't be sure what approach to take to answering the question, but once you're doing it a few times, it gets easier.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roisin.
I would say definitely go to the Smurfits revision. They do that course because it's fantastic. Because then I hadn't done exams in a long time, and I'm not from an engineering background, so even the maths ones, I found them a little bit scary. It was like, whoa, I don't even know where to start. But if you do that, those couple of weeks, and I went on Amazon and I didn't buy the most recent one. I went back and I paid, I think, 10 quid for one of the older ones, which is exactly the same. And I just went through that book, and that's what I did. I focused on those questions and on the book. And I feel like, well, if I can pass it, anybody can pass it, because I'm definitely not a mathsy type person. So it is very doable. And as you say, dedicate the time, and it's just practice.
Great. Thank you, ladies. And I think I'd probably add to that myself as well, that once you get it done, I hope you agree with me, it does give you a great level of confidence that you're going to be able to cope with the work that's coming your way on the program. Great, super. Thank you so much. I have another question here, which is probably relevant to a few of our panelists, which is about time commitment. So some very specific questions about the time commitment involved on the two programs. So I might actually ask Sri about time commitment and extra study hours on the full-time program. And then maybe Claire, you might give us your view on time commitment on the executive program.
Yeah, so for the full-time program, I think most of your time commitment goes to getting the group projects done, but it works. I think we would do the later semesters with the executive MBA classmates as well. And I think they're juggling a lot more. So I was always in awe of how they were doing it. And they were always in awe of, you know, how you're doing it all in 1 year. So I think it's definitely very doable. But I think it's important to keep the focus on why you're doing it. Like one of, I don't know, I think Deirdre mentioned it or Claire mentioned it, but it is very important that you know why you're doing it and that it's going to be worth all the effort, and that the first semester will include more work in terms of getting things done. But I think majority of your work would be the group projects that you're doing, as opposed to, you know, spending hours and hours going over the textbook or going over accountancy questions. It's not going to be like that. You're going to spend time just getting the projects done, and it's a very much learn as you do approach rather than just going through the textbooks and trying to do past papers and trying to do. So it's a very much you're just learning throughout all the time, and it is a bit of time commitment for the learning, especially in the early semesters. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it's going to be all worth it at the end. And it gets lesser as the semesters go by, as your course load becomes lesser, but you'll have your capstone to focus on. You'll have loads of, you know, you'll have your job search to focus on. So nothing is as hard as the first semester. Things get way easier from there.
That's great. Thank you, Sri.
I'm always thinking at the end when it's near exams, so I'm not going to put a number of hours on it because it felt like a lot. But what I would say is just to spread the workload. So look, Saturdays and Sundays were my friend because I wasn't working. So definitely doing 3-4 hours on a Saturday and Sunday, catching up with your readings, and then just making time during the week. So I know when we were doing a lot of the projects, you'd be meeting 4 to 5 nights a week, but that might have been an hour and then you're on your own in terms of doing your readings. But I suppose it's really about just carving out the time and then being disciplined when you sit down to do it. So not being distracted with work, put away the laptop and kind of focus on the readings. But I suppose if I was to put a number of hours a week, definitely around the 15 to 20, coming towards the end, you could be up around the 30, maybe a little bit more depending on what kind of exams or projects have to be in. But again, the heavy lifting is towards the end. It's not like that for 10 intensive weeks.
Thanks a million, Claire. So I also have a question here from someone who wants to understand where to actually see the dates for the program. So I spoke about committing the dates for the Executive MBA program at the beginning of the year. And that's an important point to make, is that we plan out on a 2-year cycle. So right now, the dates are available on our website for our current EMBA. So if you like Deirdre's group, so she knows exactly what Fridays and Saturdays are required, and then out into next year. So if you navigate to the MBA program page and then onto the Executive MBA program, to the curriculum tab and scroll down, you'll see a number of dates there for Friday and Saturday for this year, 23-24, and then also into 24-25. And very soon we'll be updating the website for the next cohort of students coming in and planning all the way out into the future for them. So those dates are agreed in advance. So you'll have plenty of time to plan it from a work point of view. One of the other questions that people are asking is about people who are having babies on the MBA. And I would like to say we have had lots of babies on the MBA. Lots of men and women having babies on the MBA, and then also ladies going on maternity leave. So in general, what we find is everybody is different. We have a number of ladies on the Executive MBA program who actually went on maternity leave in the middle of the program, but yet decided that they didn't actually want to miss a module. So they were very happy to actually come in still on the Friday and Saturday. We had a number of ladies who actually asked for the class to be live streamed to them in their homes, which we thankfully were able to facilitate because the module suited that. Not all modules are suitable for that sort of online streaming where the class is very, hands-on and there's lots of teamwork, or there's lots of different teaching methodologies happening, but where we can, we do that. And if possible, then we'll also record sessions. So suffice to say, everybody is different and we do our absolute best to accommodate everybody. And you always get a chance to make up the weekend sessions somewhere along the line. So that's how we do that. And then we also have a very, I would say, student-focused extenuating circumstances, which Claire alluded to earlier. So if something happens, something in your personal life, there's plenty of support where we can actually allow people to have extenuating circumstances and maybe a little bit more time on a deadline, or we can accommodate in some other way. So that is also available to people. So I have a very specific question here for you, Roisin, which is somebody saying that they currently work in the, I think it's in the healthcare, as a healthcare practitioner, also with kids, looking for a career change. I'm wondering, is it realistic to find a balance on the MBA if you don't have those initial business basics?
I think it 100% is. Of course, I don't have kids, so I can't allude to that part of your question. But with regards to finding that balance when you might not have that previous knowledge or basic knowledge of the business terms and different aspects of it, it is. I won't lie, maybe the first week or two can be a little bit like, oh, what are they talking about? I'm not sure what this means. I'm not sure what that is. But that comes around very fast. You're in classes all the time. You're not afraid to ask the questions as other people are in the same situation as you. And you learn it quite quickly, and you learn from each other, and you help each other within the class along the way. And all the lecturers are very supportive as well. And they are aware that people are coming from completely different backgrounds. So they also will help you or check in at what level people are at. And if they need to go back to more of the basics at the very start before they can move forward. So I would say it definitely is. If it's something you want to do, go for it. And you will, with all your motivation and everything, you will achieve it and get there. And it will be great for you and for your future career.
Great, thanks, Roisin. Great, Gillian, would you mind hopefully if we share the last slide? And what we'll do is just talk a little bit about the application process, because lots of the rest of the questions that I have outstanding are around it. So first and forward, it's very important to know that we're always here. It doesn't have to be a webinar, or it doesn't have to be a live event. The email for general inquiries about the MBA is mba@ucd.ie, or indeed myself, Edel O'Leary at ucd.ie, or you can always connect with me tonight later on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to come back at any time and talk you through the process. We do have a wide range of scholarships available, and the details of those are on our website. And I think I saw during the evening that my colleagues have kindly shared the link to the scholarships. And I'll talk about them now in context of the actual application process. So how we actually run the application process is that we encourage everyone to get the initial application in. And on that application, you will be asked whether you're looking to actually secure a scholarship as part of your MBA. And you can choose the scholarship that you've seen on the website and actually enter the name of it on the application process. We have what we call a rolling admissions process. So that means that we don't have a specific cutoff date, but it's very important to say that if you are entering for a scholarship, that we do actually have a scholarship cutoff date, and each scholarship has a different closing date. So it's really important when you look at that scholarship that you take note of when the application closing dates are for it. And what we do is we sit down as a collective and we review those scholarship applications. So if you want to apply for a scholarship, I would say get your application in early. And it's also really important that you've completed either your GMAT or your EA in order to secure a scholarship. Okay, we will actually look at applications who haven't actually applied for their GMAT or EA yet. but you will be what we call a conditional offer. And that means that we will be waiting for your GMAT or your EA. And as I said to you before, you know, to give yourself the confidence and to give yourself the early boost, I would be highly recommending that you get the GMAT and the EA out of the way. It then probably actually gives you a little bit of an advantage in the queue of people waiting to actually apply for scholarships. So I'd be strongly recommending that you get that done, get your application in, and then as soon as you have your results, you send them in as part of the application process. The school website is maintained up to date at all times. So you can refer back to the MBA comparison table there. You can find more details about the curriculums, the dates, and more importantly, you can actually see when we're hosting our next live events. The next on-campus event where you can actually come and meet us in person is on the 5th of April at 7 p.m. And it's about an hour and a half. We'll be here. We'll have a number of faculty joining us that evening, and you can get to ask further questions. And then we actually hold a small social gathering afterwards where you can get to meet some of the people who have come along that evening. And indeed, I actually know that a couple of people who actually are starting to accept their places will continue to come. So you can start to meet some of your class cohort there already. And then so on and so forth over the summer. And by the time you actually come to June or July, you might have been to a number of events and you're actually getting to know some of your classmates actually quite well at that stage. So that is it for this evening. I just want to express my sincere thanks to everybody who's been beavering away answering questions in the background, to Catherine, to Sinead, and to Christine, and to thank all of our panelists this evening, Roisin, Deirdre, Sri, and Claire, for being so open and honest in your conversations with Federica. So many thanks to you also, Federica, for hosting that panel. And also to Colin for giving us the insights from the top in terms of UCD's overall approach to equality, diversity and inclusion. So thank you very much for your time this evening. We're going to leave it at that, but please do make contact with us, and we'll be very happy to follow up with you over the next couple of days and weeks. Thank you so much.